Hello, everyone. Today, we are going to tell a story that redefines the word survival. It is a story about a rugby team, a snowy mountain, and a miracle. The date is October 13th, 1972. A chartered plane, Flight 571, takes off from Uruguay. On board are 45 people. Most of them are young men, members of the Old Christians rugby team. They are flying to Chile for a match. They are happy. They are laughing, playing cards, and dreaming of the game. But they never arrive. Flying over the Andes Mountains is dangerous. The weather is terrible. The pilot makes a fatal mistake. He thinks he has passed the mountains, but he hasn't. He begins to descend through the clouds. Suddenly, the clouds open up. The passengers see black rocks right in front of them. The pilot tries to pull up, but it is too late. Crash. The plane hits a mountain peak. The right wing is torn off. Then the left wing. The fuselage, the body of the plane, becomes like a toboggan. It slides down a steep, snowy slope at 350 kilometers per hour. It finally stops in a remote valley, 3,600 meters high. Silence falls. 12 people died instantly. The survivors are injured, bleeding, and terrified. They are wearing only summer clothes, jeans, and t-shirts. But outside, it is minus 30 degrees Celsius. They are trapped in a frozen hell. The first night was a nightmare. 5 more people died from the cold and injuries. The survivors huddled together, using the broken seats and luggage to block the wind. They melted snow for water. But they had a bigger problem: food. They searched the luggage. They found only a few chocolate bars, some jam, and a few bottles of wine. They rationed it, 1 square of chocolate per person per day. But a week passed. The food ran out. They tried to eat the leather from the seats. They tried to eat straw, but they were starving. Their bodies were eating themselves. On the 10th day, they heard a radio broadcast. They had found a small transistor radio in the wreckage. The news said, "The search for the Uruguayan plane has been called off. They will look again in the summer." Called off. Abandoned. The world thought they were dead. They realized they had to save themselves. But to survive, they needed energy. There was no food on the mountain, only snow and rock. The only source of protein was the bodies of their dead friends. It was a terrible, heartbreaking decision. They were religious boys. They prayed. They made a pact. "If I die, you can use my body to survive." It was the ultimate act of sacrifice and friendship. They chose to live. Just when they thought things couldn't get worse, nature struck again. On October 29th, 16 days after the crash, they were sleeping in the fuselage. Suddenly, a roaring sound shook the mountain. An avalanche. Tons of snow crashed into the plane. It buried them alive. They were trapped in the dark, under the snow. They frantically dug for air. 8 more people died that night, including the team captain. Now only 19 were left. They were buried inside the plane for 3 days while a blizzard raged outside. They had to dig a tunnel through the cockpit window just to get fresh air. This moment broke their spirits. "Why is God doing this to us?" they asked. But one young man, Nando Parado, refused to give up. His mother and sister had died in the crash. He looked at the mountains and said, "I will not die here. I will walk home." Weeks turned into months. They waited for the weather to improve. Finally, in December, it was summer in the southern hemisphere. 3 men were chosen for the final expedition: Nando Parado, Roberto Canessa, and Antonio Vizintin. They had no climbing gear. No ropes, no proper shoes. They made sleeping bags from the insulation of the plane. They started climbing on December 12th. The mountain they had to cross was a monster Mount Seller over 4,600 meters high. It took them 3 days just to reach the top. When they reached the summit, they expected to see green valleys and towns, but instead they saw more mountains, endless white peaks in every direction. It was a crushing moment. Roberto Canessa thought, "We are dead. There is no way out." But Nando said, "We have walked too far to go back. Let's go until we die." They decided that Antonio should go back to the plane to save food. Now it was just Nando and Roberto. They walked for 10 days. They climbed over glaciers. They slipped on ice. They were exhausted, dehydrated, and dying. Then, on the 9th day, the landscape changed. The snow stopped. They saw grass. They saw a cow. And then, across a rushing river, they saw a man on a horse. It was a Chilean shepherd named Sergio Catalan. Nando tried to shout, but the river was too loud. The shepherd threw a rock with a paper and pencil wrapped around it. Nando wrote a note. "I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am Uruguayan. We are weak. Please help us." He threw the rock back. The shepherd signaled yes and rode away to get help. They were saved. The next day, helicopters arrived. The sound of the chopping blades was the most beautiful music in the world. Nando guided the helicopters back to the crash site. The other 14 survivors were waiting by the plane. They heard the sound. They looked up. They saw the rescue birds. They screamed. They cried. They hugged each other. After 72 days, the nightmare was over. They were skeletons, weighing only 40 or 50 kilograms, but they were alive. When they returned to civilization, the world was shocked. How did they survive? When the truth about the food came out, some people were horrified. But the Catholic Church and the families said, it was not a sin. It was survival. It was communion. Today, the survivors are old men. They go back to the crash site sometimes to honor their friends. They call it the Glacier of Tears. Their story teaches us a powerful lesson. As long as you breathe, there is hope. Even when the world abandons you, even when you are buried under snow, keep walking. Just take one more step. Thank you for listening to The Miracle of the Andes. It is a heavy story, but a beautiful one. See you in the next episode.